My name is Lillian Thomas. I'm 28 years old, and for the longest time, I thought peace meant love. When things were quiet, no shouting, no drama, no jealousy, I believed that meant we were strong, stable, unshakable. But I've learned something since then. Peace only lasts when both people actually want it. Wesley and I had been together a little over 2 years when the cracks began to show. I was a data analyst, the kind of woman who color codes her life and feels guilty if she sleeps past 7. Wesley was the opposite. He worked in PR, thrived in chaos, and lived for the spotlight. If a camera came out, he'd be in front of it. If a group chat went silent, he'd revive it with a meme or a joke. He used to tell me, "You're my anchor, L. You keep me grounded." Back then, that word made me proud. Anchor sounded strong, dependable. Later, I realized it can also mean the thing that keeps you from moving forward. The first red flags didn't feel like red flags. They felt like jokes. Like the time at his coworker's birthday dinner when he leaned over to feed cake to Jade, a woman from his office who laughed just a bit too loudly at his jokes. Everyone giggled, even I did, pretending not to notice the way his hand lingered on hers. Later in the car, I said quietly, "That thing with Jade, it made me uncomfortable." He looked at me genuinely amused. "Oh, come on, Elle. You're overthinking. She's like that with everyone." Then he kissed my forehead like he was soothing a child, adding, "You've got to loosen up, babe. Not every woman talking to your boyfriend is a threat." It sounded reasonable enough. He was so sure, so dismissive, that I convinced myself I was overreacting. After all, everything else about him was magnetic. He'd dance in the kitchen while I cooked, hum off-key, steal spoonfuls of soup, and say, "Needs more spice like you." He left little sticky notes on my laptop that read, "Don't forget to smile," or "Proud of you, nerd." I kept them all in a drawer. Back then, I thought that was love laughter, teasing spontaneity, mixed with my quiet steadiness. But over time, the teasing turned into something sharper. "You're so serious all the time, Elle. You literally plan weekends on a spreadsheet. Relax, it's not a crime to be fun." He'd say it with a grin, but the bite behind it stung. I brushed it off the way people in love brush off the things they shouldn't ignore. Then came the late nights, client drinks, networking events, team celebrations. He'd leave at 7, come home at 1 in the morning, smelling of perfume that wasn't mine. When I asked questions, he'd sigh. "If you can't trust me, what are we even doing, Elle?" That line became his favorite weapon. It ended every conversation before it could begin. And because I wanted to be the chill girlfriend, I let it. I wanted to believe him. But trust erodes quietly, like paint peeling from walls you don't notice until you're surrounded by decay. One night he came home tipsy, laughing. "You'd hate how flirty Jade gets when she drinks," he said, dropping onto the couch. She kept saying she wished her boyfriend was as chill as me. He said it like it was a compliment. I smiled tightly, trying not to look as uneasy as I felt. He noticed anyway. "Oh my God, Elle, don't look at me like that. It's harmless." That word again, harmless. By the time I realized how often he said it, it was already too late. The weekend of his company retreat arrived sooner than I expected. He'd been buzzing all week, new outfits, new cologne packing lists. "It's a resort 2 hours away," he told me. "Everyone's going Jade, too." I tried to sound casual. "You'll be with her all weekend." He laughed too hard. "Of course, she's part of the team. Don't start Elle. You trust me, right?" I just nodded. He took my silence as permission. That Friday night, I watched him get ready. His shirt fit a little too well, his cologne too strong, the one he used to save for our date nights. As he checked himself in the mirror, I said softly, "You look nice." He smiled. "You know I have to. It's PR appearances matter." I forced a smile, swallowed the unease that rose in my throat, and whispered, "Have fun. Text me when you get there." He didn't. Hours later, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling phone in hand, waiting for a message that never came. Something inside me tightened, quiet and heavy. I told myself, he's busy. He's fine. You're just overthinking again. But deep down, I knew better. Sometimes silence isn't peace. It's the sound of a storm forming just beyond what you can see. By the next morning, the unease had settled in my chest like a stone I couldn't swallow. I checked my phone, still nothing. No text, no missed call, not even a quick made it safe. It wasn't like him to stay quiet this long. Or maybe it was exactly like him now. I tried to distract myself, coffee laundry, scrolling through social media, until my thumb froze mid-scroll. There it was. A photo from Jade's Instagram story later reposted on the company page. A group shot, everyone smiling, drinks raised. Wesley right in the middle, his arm draped around Jade's waist. They looked comfortable. Too comfortable. The caption read, "Team goals." The power duo we didn't know we needed. And there, right beneath it, I saw it a tiny glowing heart. He'd liked it. I stared at that image until my eyes blurred. Tried to find another explanation. Maybe his arm was just in an awkward position. Maybe Jade had leaned in. Maybe I was being dramatic. But no matter how I twisted it, one thing stayed the same. He didn't look uncomfortable. He looked proud. I spent that weekend trying not to fall apart. Every hour felt heavier than the last. I didn't eat much. I didn't sleep. And when Sunday evening came, he finally texted casual, careless. "Wesley, just got back. Missed you." That was it. No apology for disappearing, no explanation, no mention of the photo everyone had already seen. When he came home, he smelled like hotel shampoo and beer. He wrapped his arms around me like nothing was wrong. "Hey, Elle, you okay?" "I'm fine," I lied. He talked about the trip, the networking, the crazy stories, the insane karaoke night. He laughed as he told me how wild everyone got, how Jade tried to make him dance. Then casually, "You'd have hated it. She kept trying to drag me onto the dance floor." I swallowed hard. "Did you?" He froze for just a second. "Did I wet dance with her?" He laughed, that same hollow laugh I'd learned to fear. "Lillian, oh my God, it was just dancing. Stop acting like I cheated." There it was, the dismissal. The twist that made me the unreasonable one. I bit my tongue, nodded, and smiled like everything was fine. Inside, I was shaking. Later that night, while he snored softly beside me, I sat on the couch, staring at the faint glow of his phone charging on the table. It wasn't curiosity that made me look, it was instinct. Like my heart already knew what my eyes were about to see. When the screen lit up, it wasn't a notification from work. It was from Jade. Jade. "Still thinking about that kiss. Don't act like you didn't like it too." My whole body went still. The kind of stillness that doesn't feel like calm, it feels like shock. I didn't gasp, I didn't cry, I just stared. That single message said everything the past 6 months had been trying to tell me. Every "you're overreacting," every "you need to trust me," every "it's harmless." It was never harmless. It was calculated carelessness, a slow erosion of my boundaries disguised as charm. I took a photo of the message, my hands trembling slightly, and placed his phone back exactly where it was. Then I just sat there in the dim blue light, realizing how heartbreak doesn't always explode. Sometimes it seeps in quietly like water under a locked door. When he woke up a few hours later, he stretched, smiled, and said, "You're quiet this morning." "Just tired," I murmured. He leaned in and kissed my cheek. "See, we don't have to fight about everything." And for the first time, I didn't respond. Not because I wanted to keep the peace, but because I finally understood there was no peace left to keep. That day, something inside me shifted. It wasn't anger yet. It was clarity. A painful kind of calm that feels like standing in the eye of a hurricane, waiting for what comes next. The next few days passed in eerie quiet. Wesley must have thought the silence meant forgiveness, but it wasn't that. It was distance, the kind that grows in visible roots. I went through the motions, work, errands, dinner. I smiled when he joked, nodded when he talked, but in my head, I was somewhere else, already gone. Every time I looked at him, I didn't see the man I fell in love with. I saw the man who made me doubt myself for daring to notice the truth. That Thursday night, he came home late again, humming to himself, the faint smell of perfume clinging to his shirt. I didn't ask. He poured himself a drink and leaned against the counter, grinning. "You know, Elle, people at work think I'm lucky. They say you're the perfect girlfriend, calm, stable, low drama. You never nag." I looked up from my laptop and met his eyes. Maybe that's because I stopped expecting honesty. He blinked, caught off guard. "What's that supposed to mean?" I almost said it. I saw the message. But then I stopped myself. What would it change? He'd twist it, deflect, blame me. Instead, I just smiled. "Nothing, Wesley. Go to bed." He shrugged and wandered off, humming that same careless tune. When I heard the bedroom door click shut, I exhaled slow, deliberate, and opened the drawer beside me. Inside was a small box of my keepsakes. The sticky notes he'd written, the movie ticket from our first date, the keychain he bought me on our anniversary. I held each one for a moment, not out of nostalgia, but out of farewell. Then I started packing. It wasn't dramatic, no sobbing, no shaking hands, just quiet purpose. I folded my clothes, neatly stacked books into boxes, unplugged chargers. Each drawer I emptied felt like reclaiming a piece of myself I'd loaned out for too long. At one point, I paused by the window. The city lights glowed like they always had. But tonight, they looked different, less like chaos, more like freedom. By midnight, I was nearly done. All that was left was the note. I sat at the kitchen counter, the same place where he'd once told me I was too serious, and wrote, "Wesley, you were right. I don't need your permission for anything. I also don't need to stay where I'm constantly made to feel small. I saw the message. I don't want explanations or apologies. Just know that the next time you look for me in this apartment, you won't find me. Take care of yourself. Lillian. I placed the note under his favorite coffee mug, the one that said, "World's Best Communicator." The irony almost made me laugh. Before leaving, I took one last look around. The plants I'd watered, the photos I'd hung, the life I'd built around someone who never deserved it. When I locked the door behind me, it didn't echo. It was silent, like the final breath before a new beginning. I drove with the windows down, letting the cold air sting my cheeks. It didn't hurt the way I thought it would. It felt clean. The next morning, my phone started buzzing before sunrise. Unknown number, then Wesley, then his mother. I turned it face down, let it ring. Hours later, a message appeared. Wesley. What the hell, Elle? Where are you? The apartment's empty. You can't just vanish like this over one stupid mistake. Then another. Wesley, this is childish. Talk to me. I didn't. For once, my silence wasn't weakness. It was power. Because leaving quietly doesn't mean you don't care. It means you finally learned who does and who never did. The first week after I left felt strange. Too quiet. Too still. No buzzing phone, no half-hearted apologies, no jokes to smooth over discomfort. Just me, coffee, morning light, and an unfamiliar calm that felt both foreign and sacred. I'd moved into a small sublet my coworker was leaving for 6 months. It wasn't fancy a studio with creaky floors and a view of the neighbors' laundry lines, but it was mine. Every object in that room had one thing in common. It belonged to me, not us. For the first time in years, I could breathe without asking permission. The calls from Wesley kept coming for a while. Blocked numbers, then messages. At first, they were angry. You're overreacting. This is ridiculous, Elle. You can't just ghost me like that. Then came the guilt tripping. I made one mistake. Everyone makes mistakes. You always said you wanted peace. Is this your version of it? And finally, the desperation. Please talk to me. I can't sleep. I'm sorry. I was drunk. I didn't mean anything by it. I didn't reply. I deleted the first few, then stopped bothering. Silence was doing more than my words ever had. A few weeks later, I heard from Sophie, one of his coworkers. We'd met a few times at company events. She'd always been polite but distant. Her message read, "Hey, Elle, just wanted to say you probably dodged a bullet. Don't ask me how I know. Just, wow." I didn't respond, but my stomach twisted. I didn't have to ask what wow meant. A few days later, the pieces started falling into place. Apparently, Wesley and Jade didn't last long. Word spread through the office that he'd tried to make it official, calling her his girlfriend, bringing her coffee, acting like they were the next power couple. But Jade wasn't interested in commitment. Someone overheard her laughing with friends saying, "He's sweet, but I was just having fun. He's not really my type." The same week, another woman from their department started posting pictures her and Wesley, new angles, new captions. People noticed. Screenshots circulated. Jade unfollowed him. And soon the office gossip turned from admiration to pity. Sophie told me later that Wesley looked wrecked. Apparently the same charisma that once made him the center of every room had turned into something pathetic. Desperate attempts to joke through humiliation. And me, I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no gloating, not even relief, just distance. Because karma doesn't always arrive with thunder. Sometimes it just whispers, "Now you understand." I poured my energy into rebuilding. Yoga on weekends, cooking classes, a photography group where no one knew my history, just my first name and my laugh. Every time I opened my camera lens, I remembered how it felt to see beauty again, without waiting for someone to notice it with me. Then one night, a new message popped up. Wesley. "Hey, I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but I just wanted to say I get it now." I almost ignored it, but another came right after. Wesley. You were patient with me. I thought you were controlling, but you were just trying to protect me from people like her. A pause, then another text. Wesley. Can we talk just once, no excuses? I just want to apologize in person. I stared at the screen for a long time. His words didn't sting anymore. They didn't even register as real. They were echoes of the same performance, just spoken softer this time. So I set my phone down, turned off the light, and whispered into the dark. You don't get to apologize just because your consequences finally showed up. I rolled over and fell asleep before he could send another. The next morning, I woke to sunlight streaming through my curtains. The air smelled like rain and freedom. And for the first time in a very long time, I smiled, not because someone loved me, but because I finally did. It had been almost 2 months since I'd left him when we finally crossed paths again. Not intentionally, the universe just has a cruel sense of timing. It was Clara's engagement party, a mutual friend from college. I almost didn't go, but something in me wanted to prove that I could show up, smile exist in a room where he might still be a shadow and not flinch. The venue was warm and glowing fairy lights, laughter, clinking glasses. Everyone looked effortless. And for once, so did I. A soft navy dress hair, loose a small silver pendant I'd bought for myself. Not a gift, not a reminder, just mine. I was talking to a few friends near the bar when I heard it his voice, low, familiar, cautious. Lillian, I turned. He looked smaller. Not physically, but spiritually. Gone was the confident grin, the self-assured swagger. His hair was a little longer. His shirt slightly wrinkled, and his eyes, the same eyes that used to sparkle with mischief, looked dull, tired. Wow, he said softly. You look good. I smiled politely. Thanks, I mean it, he added quickly. You look healthy. Happier. I am. He hesitated, then motioned toward the terrace. Can we talk just for a minute? I followed him outside, more out of curiosity than closure. The night air was crisp, the faint hum of the city in the distance. He stuffed his hands into his pockets like a teenager caught in a lie. I just wanted to say I'm sorry, he began. For everything. For yelling. For Jade. For making you feel like you were the crazy one. You didn't deserve that. I didn't say anything. I wanted to hear it all, the apology, the regret, the recognition of what he destroyed. He continued, voice trembling slightly. I thought I was proving something. That I was this strong, independent guy who didn't need rules or limits. But all I did was ruin the one thing that was real. His words floated between us, fragile, rehearsed. When he finally looked up, his eyes were wet. Say something, please. I exhaled slowly. You're right. You ruined it. But not because you were proving something, because you didn't know what love required. It's not freedom without responsibility. It's not peace without honesty. He swallowed hard. So, is there any chance we could— No, I cut in softly but firmly. I forgave you a long time ago, but not for you, for me. He blinked, confused. What does that mean? It means I was tired of carrying you around in every silence, every hesitation. Forgiveness isn't an invitation. It's a release. He looked away, the corner of his mouth twitching. You really don't love me anymore, do you? I shook my head. No, I love peace more. He let out a short, bitter laugh, not at me, but at himself. You always were better at letting go than I was. No, I said quietly. I just learned earlier that holding on to pain doesn't keep it from hurting. It just makes it permanent. We stood there for a moment, two people who once shared everything, now strangers with nothing left to say. Finally, I stepped back. Take care of yourself, Wesley. He nodded faintly. You too, Elle. As I walked away, I didn't feel triumphant or angry, just light, like setting down the last heavy box after a long move. Inside, Clara's fiancé was making a toast. Laughter rippled through the room. And as I joined in, I realized something healing doesn't always come with fireworks. Sometimes it's just the quiet certainty that you can stand in the same room as your past and feel nothing. Because that's what peace truly is, not the absence of chaos, but the absence of need. 6 months passed after that party. 6 months of real calm, the kind that doesn't depend on anyone's approval. By then, I'd built a new rhythm. I had my small apartment, a job promotion. New friends who didn't know me as Wesley's girlfriend, and one person who made me laugh in the way I'd forgotten I could, Carter. Carter wasn't loud or magnetic like Wesley. He was grounded, thoughtful, the kind of man who asked how your day was and actually listened to the answer. We weren't a whirlwind. We were steady flame. And for once, I didn't feel like I had to earn love by tolerating chaos. That's why when the knocking started one Friday night, hard, unrelenting, I almost didn't answer. Carter and I had just finished dinner, soft jazz, playing 2 glasses of wine half full. The knocking came again, louder this time. Who is it? I called out. No answer. Then a voice I hadn't heard in months. Lillian, please, it's me. Don't close the door. I need to talk. My stomach dropped. Carter looked at me silently, asking if I wanted him to handle it. I shook my head. It's okay, I whispered. I've got it. I opened the door just enough to see him. Wesley. He looked awful. Red-rimmed eyes, wrinkled shirt, that mix of guilt and desperation that comes when pride finally runs out. For a moment, he didn't even speak, just looked at me like he couldn't believe I was real. You look different, he said finally. Good different. What do you need, Wesley? I asked quietly. He rubbed a hand over his face. I was wrong, Elle. About everything. Jade, the way I treated you, all of it. She didn't care about me. She just used me. And I let her. I thought I was being this confident guy, but I was just being stupid. I crossed my arms. That's unfortunate. He blinked, thrown off by my tone. That's all you're going to say. What else is there to say? You said you didn't need my permission. Remember, you made your choice. He stepped closer. I didn't choose this. I didn't realize what I had until I lost it. You were good to me, Lillian. You were the only one who ever cared. I looked at him, and for a brief second I saw the man I used to love, but only as a memory. No, I said softly. I cared about the version of you I thought existed, but that man only lived in my imagination. He flinched. You don't have to be cruel. I'm not, I said calmly. I'm being honest. That's something we never had between us. His gaze drifted past me to the small detail I'd forgotten. Carter's shoes by the couch. His expression changed. You're seeing someone. Yes, already. It's been 6 months, Wesley. Still, he said bitterly. You move on fast. I shook my head. No, I just stopped waiting for someone who'd already left. That landed like a stone. He stood there, jaw tightening, eyes glassy. I made a mistake, a huge one. But people make mistakes, Elle. We can fix this. I can fix this. No, I said, you can't, because we don't exist anymore. His voice cracked. You really don't feel anything for me. I do, I said, relief. He laughed, the sound brittle and hollow. Guess that says it all. It does. I opened the door wider, not as an invitation, but as an ending. Good night, Wesley. He hesitated, eyes darting to the shoes again. I hope he treats you better than I did. He already does, I said quietly, by not being you. For a moment, he looked like he wanted to say more, but the words never came. He just nodded, stepped back, and walked down the hall. When I closed the door, I didn't lean against it or cry or shake. I just exhaled, like a story finally told to its last page. Carter walked over and wrapped an arm around me. You okay? Yeah, I said. I think that was the last chapter. He smiled, pressing his forehead to mine. Then let's start a better one. And in that moment, I knew closure isn't something they give you. It's something you build for yourself, brick by brick, until the past can knock all it wants, and you simply don't open the door. It's strange how life keeps moving, even when you think you've already reached the ending. After that night, I never heard from Wesley again. No calls, no texts, no late-night apologies that came too late. It was as if he'd finally understood silence was the only response I'd ever give him again. Months passed, and my world grew fuller. Carter and I settled into a rhythm that felt natural. Not the dizzying kind of love that burns fast and leaves ashes, but the kind that feels like sunlight after rain. Warm, honest, steady. We took weekend trips, cooked dinners together, had slow mornings where coffee and laughter blended into one quiet joy. Sometimes I'd catch myself thinking, so this is what peace actually feels like. Not the silence I once mistook for love, not the pretending, just calm that doesn't need defending. Then one afternoon, while waiting in line at my favorite cafe, I saw him again. Wesley. He was sitting by the window alone, a half-finished cup of coffee beside him, scrolling through his phone with that absent look people wear when the world's moved on without them. He looked older somehow, not in age but in spirit. His confidence was gone, replaced by a quiet kind of defeat. I considered turning around, pretending I hadn't seen him. But then he looked up. Our eyes met. For a second, neither of us moved. Then he managed a small, hesitant smile. Lillian. I nodded polite. Wesley. He cleared his throat, his voice rough. You look happy. I am. He nodded, a faint, genuine sadness in his expression. Good, I'm glad. Take care, Wesley. And that was it. No dramatic confessions, no tearful apologies, no rekindling. Just two people standing on opposite sides of a closed chapter. As I turned to leave, I caught my reflection in the cafe window, the same woman who once begged the universe for peace, now walking away from it, carrying her own. Outside, the air was cool, the city alive with noise and motion. I slipped my phone into my pocket, took a deep breath, and smiled to myself. Because closure isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the soft click of a cafe door closing behind you. Sometimes it's walking past the person who once broke you, and feeling nothing. That's when I realized he never took my peace. He only taught me how to build it. So when people ask me what happened between us, I just tell them the truth. He taught me how powerful silence can be. Not the silence of avoidance, but the silence of understanding. The kind that hums with freedom. The kind that means I'm finally home within myself.